All right, faith as a principle of action and power. Now, the reason that I talk about this is because God uses this all the time. He uses our principle of action and the power that's related to action to bless us with our labors when we do things, that certain things happen, whether it's plant a garden and we produce a crop, or it's whether we do something else and pray and receive a blessing. So faith is both a principle of power and action, and sometimes it's a combination of both. Let me give you an example of this. One great example is in the Book of Mormon with Brother Jared. Now, he is commanded to build some vessels. He's never done it before, but God shows him how to build these vessels or barges, and there's 8 of them. And Brother of Jared, asked the Lord, how am we going to cross the great waters in darkness? We don't want to do that. And the Lord says, well, what do you want me to do? And so the brother of Jared has to go think. And he finds out or thinks of, well, all molten or make these 16 stones, put 2 stones in each barge, 8 of the 8 barges, and I'll just have the Lord touch them with his finger, have them glow so we can have a light. Now imagine that. The Lord asks the brother of Jared what to do, and he goes, creates those 16 stones, and he prays and asks God to touch those with his finger and have them glow so they can have a light in these barges, because they can't use wood and they can't use windows. So the Lord does that, and when he does that, brother Jared sees his finger and falls to the ground in fear. But the principle of faith and of action and power is used in this example in 2 ways. One, he asks brother Jared what he should do, and brother Jared comes up with a plan. He creates the molten stones, and he asks the Lord to touch it with his finger. So it takes the action of making the stones and coming up with a plan and acting on that. It also takes the power of faith and prayer to request that the Lord touch the stones, and he does, and they glow. And so he uses both of these principles, both in making the stones and asking the Lord to touch the stones and having them glow. He has faith that the Lord can do that, and he does. And there's an added blessing of seeing the Lord's hand and seeing the Lord's body. So anyhow, this is a great story about in the Book of Mormon about the brother of Jared making these barges. Now I've often wondered, did they have a hatch on the top, not just an opening, but a hatch so they could get on top of the barge and get some fresh air, or maybe come out and move a little bit, and we'll open this up and bring in fresh air and have it circulate out of the top of the hatch. And so we don't know what they look like, but he could have had an opening or a hatch in the top of that barge, and it would been blocked open so the air could blow and roll through that and freshen it. And they could have got out occasionally and walked on top of that, or dumped waste out, or whatever. We don't know exactly what the barges look like, but God did, and he knew exactly how to build them so they could move them along and get fresh air and other things done when they opened the top of that through a hatch or an opening of some sort. So God knows all things, and he commanded them to build those barges. They did, and they crossed the great deeps in those barges with fluorescent stones inside those barges for light. We know that much, and it took a great deal of faith and power to know how to build the barges, but to do them with revelation and exactness that the Lord wanted, so they could have the air and other things they needed and move safely across the great oceans. So it's a great story and a great example of the power of faith, both in action and in power. So faith is a principle of both action and power. We have to have faith that when we do something, we'll have a reward for doing it. And that's the principle of power. action, but it's also the principle of faith. And we have to have faith beyond just doing, a belief that if we request something from God and it's right, that it will be brought to pass. And we have to have faith that that power will work through prayer. And many people have used the power of faith and prayer, that principle of power and action, to bring things to pass. Not only have they done things, but prayed for things or done both and have things happen. So, again, faith is a principle of both action and power. And this is just an example of both of those things. So remember that. God blesses us according to our faith and actions, and faith in the principle of power, and it's often used in prayer. Ask something and to receive that. So there's two examples of the great power of faith, both in action and in power. Good day.